Hi gorgeous, this is episode number 121 with Dov Gordon, the alchemist entrepreneur.
Hi, this is Dov Gordon, and you are listening to Heart Sells Podcast with Christine Schlonski. Enjoy.
I am so excited to have Dov Gordon back on the show today, and today we are going to talk about foundations and what foundations have to do with the fact that you might not really have the results you are desiring right now. I hope you have subscribed to Heart Sells Podcast. Please leave a rating and a review. And also please share it with two of your amazing friends because we want to build a tribe of heart sellers, having fun while selling, being authentic and true to their values, and delivering amazing value to their tribe. So let's dive in with Dov. Dov helps consultants and experts to get ideal clients consistently. Because there are millions and millions of consultants and coaches out there who are really good at what they do, but they are not really the charismatic guru types. And also, they don't want to be. They love their work, and all they want is a consistent flow of great clients. Clients who value their expertise and who value who they are as people. And also pay them well for it. Dov and his small team take a tactic-agnostic approach. They help you build a strong strategic foundation and to apply it to build a simple client-getting system that is best for you. So excited that Dov is back, so let's dive in. I am so happy you are back on Heart Sells Podcast. Welcome, Dov.
Great to be back. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so exciting. I loved our first conversation, and what really stuck with me is that I made it up. You don't call it like this, but the no fluff strategy, where you actually produce something that you've sold for years and then decided, all right, I'm just going to give it away because it adds so much value to people. And when they read it, when they learn from it, when they're done with it, they have such a better understanding of how they can take their business to the next level. And if they then feel like I would be the perfect coach or mentor or consultant, they will come and, you don't need to do anything, basically. You just need to hold that space and, have a phone number or a conversation with them. And I really love that strategy. So what made you decide to switch from going from paid to actually offering it for free?
Well, I wrote this manual. We call it my manual because it's just kind of the basics. And by the way, basics in the sense that, I remember hearing that white belt learns the basics and a black belt is learning the same basics, the same whatever, 7 moves, whatever, depending what karate school you're, martial arts school you're a part of. But it's just at a much higher level. So anybody who doesn't think they need to master the basics, I would suggest that in almost every single case, if you're not getting the results you want, there's something foundational that's missing from what you're doing day to day. It's not something fancy. It's something foundational in almost every single case. So I wrote it in about 6 weeks, put a lot of, I think I probably put 3.5, 4 hours a day over about 6 weeks, really just working at it. The hardest part, I think, was cutting out, was because I did not want to have, I just was not interested in sharing everything that I knew. I was not interested in justifying the value. Well, I'll actually explain what I mean by that, because all of us know a lot, but that's not necessarily what our reader or our client needs to know, right? Yeah. In a day and age like we have today, where there is so much information, there's information overload all the time. The greatest value that we can bring to somebody is not to give them more information. The greatest value is to eliminate and say, I'm going to focus you on the critical 10% that gives you 90% of what you want. I realized years ago that I think of this as the I'm not Abe Lincoln problem. Abraham Lincoln being president of the United States, one of the greatest, by most accounts. He grew up in poverty in the backwoods of Illinois, Kentucky, I forget. And, he lived, a mile, 2 miles from a neighbor, no books, no libraries down the block or, Kindle, right? So he would have to walk a mile to a neighbor to borrow a book and then read it and then return it. And he read the classics, the Bible, Pilgrim's Progress, and other books. I forget the whole list, but he read these classic books again and again and again. And it affected his thinking, and it affected his language. It helped it gave him a deeper understanding of people. If you think about books that have lasted the test of time like that, in some way they're talking to us. They're talking to something that's deep inside all of us that really resonates. And that went into him. He didn't just read thousands of books, but he read maybe a couple of dozen, but or a few dozen, but he read them repeatedly, and they impacted him. And I think that today we have the opposite problem, the I'm not Abraham Lincoln problem, because I know I probably have more books in my Kindle library and my iPad or phone than he read in his whole life, probably. Our problem is depth. Our problem is mastery or lack of it. Our problem is depth of understanding. Our problem is thinking that I need to know more when really I need to more deeply understand what I already know. Our problem is I wake up in the morning and I say, well, hey, I've got this really valuable skill set. I can, really help these types of people. How do I get clients? And then we watch a webinar or whatever it might be. We read a book and then we think, oh, okay, I got it now. And we take a step and we start, working on it. We make some progress and then we hit a wall. And we hit the wall and right away we fall into the clutches of the three doubts. The three doubts are, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it right? And then how come it's not working for me, or will it ever work for me? And almost as quickly, suddenly we start to think, well, I must not know enough. So like the Roomba vacuum cleaner, we hit the wall. I must not know enough. We bounce off in another direction, looking for more knowledge, more information, another book, another course, another program, and so on. What we really need, though, is we need someone to look at what we're doing and say, oh, hit the wall. And then, am I doing the right thing? This part of what you're doing is good, is right. This part is a little off. Fix this, right? Good. Now hit the wall. Take a chip out of it. Hit the wall. Take a chip out of it. And then you continue. Instead of bouncing off, you continue. You hit the wall. You take a chip out of it. You hit the wall. Take a chip out of it. And at some point, it's just not going anymore, right? The chips aren't falling anymore. You feel like something changed. Something's off. And then you turn around to your mentor, your coach, whoever it is that has already done what you're trying to do. And you say, well, am I doing it right? And they look at what you're doing and they say, this part's right, this part's a little off. Let's adjust this. Let's fix that. Make that change. Good. They could see in minutes what would take you years to see for yourself. We just can't see it for ourselves, even if we can often see it for somebody else, by the way. Sometimes we could, sometimes we can't. So, and then again, you're back. Now hit the wall, take a chip out of it, hit the wall. Until again, you get stuck and you start to wonder, is this ever going to work for me? Why isn't it working for me? And they say, you're doing the right thing. You're doing it right. Now it's a matter of doing it. Continue doing it. And then because you have that confidence, I know, we talked about confidence, the other conversation. It's something that comes up a lot on your podcast, right? Because you have the confidence of a simple, repeatable process that actually makes sense to you, and a mentor behind you who's helping you deeply understand the thinking, the ideas that you've already acquired, you're able to keep hitting. And then one day you hit the wall, and then suddenly the wall crumbles. And it's at that moment, you're like, wow, the dust is flying everywhere. You hit the wall crumbles, you step through that wall. It's at that moment that you understand all that information you've been collecting. Because as I said in our other conversation, in order for us to break through, in order for us to get to a point where we can really have that next, the stereotypical or the breakthrough, that next level, whatever it is for each of us, we need to learn something different. Okay, the way I see it is that there are three. We don't need more and more information. We need to change how we think. We need to change how we feel, our emotional mastery, and we need to change how we work. Okay, those are really the three things we need to learn. So in order to have that, it's not about more information, but we do have to come to understand something. I need to learn. I need that some kind of a learning experience But it's not something you can get from a book. It's not something that anybody can just tell it to you. Oh, this is how it is. It's something you have to learn from your own experience. The problem is, if we bounce off and run another direction thinking, I don't know enough, we don't have enough experience. We never get to that point. So we really need a combination of what I think of as you got it. Mastery has 3 levels. We talk about the path of the charismatic guru and the path of mastery before. To me, mastery is, there are 3 parts to it. Number 1 is you have to know what information actually matters. There is so much information out there. And this is why, what I really made an effort to eliminate everything but what you really need to know. There's so much knowledge and information out there. You need somebody to be able to help you understand, Christine, this is the critical 10% that will give you 90% of what you want. This is the critical 10% that makes you look brilliant 90% of the time. For now, ignore the 90%, focus on the 10%. If you don't have that mentor, that coach helping you see that, then you're going to waste years of your life trying to figure out for yourself what is the 10% that actually gives you 90%. Because that's a fact. That's the way the world is. And then you need to study that 10%. And then you need to go out and implement it. That's the second step. You need to do something with it. Use it, live it, right? And that's, you got to hit the wall, right? And then when you go out and do something, you're going to have experiences. Some of it you can get some kind of results. Some of those results you're going to like, some of them you're not going to like. And then the third step is you go back to your coach, your mentor, and say, hey, you taught me this. Here's what I did with it. And these are the results. Some of them I like, some I don't like, and help me improve. And your coach, your mentor looks at what you're doing, and in an instant or minutes or maybe hours, they can see precisely what you need to change, because they could see what you cannot, because they've already learned these things by their own experience. And they can point you and say, this is what matters, this is what doesn't, make this change. You then have to go back and still live it yourself before you can really understand it. When the wall crumbles, you suddenly understand the things you already knew. It's like the light, it's like, I remember the first time I did an online launch, and I'm not a fan of launches. I don't do launches anymore. But I didn't know. Everybody was doing launches, and I thought I should do a launch. I spent about 3 months setting it up, between figuring out a membership site, and I didn't know what I was getting into. I didn't know what I didn't know. This is going back quite a number of years. And then I think I made one sale of $750. But as soon as I finished that last teleseminar, and I was obviously very frustrated, disappointed. There was teleseminars back then. Webinars were not as popular or easily available. I suddenly understood advice that I'd been getting all along. Suddenly certain things click into place. It's like the wall fell. The wall crumbled, and I was standing there in the dust, and I finally understood it. In that sense, I'd had a certain success. I finally got it. I learned what I needed to learn so that the next time it was better. The next time it was better. And interestingly, when you step through the wall, and as you're brushing yourself off and patting yourself on the back and feeling really good about yourself, you look up and suddenly you see that right there, right off in the not too distant distance over there is another wall, and it's taller and it's thicker. And that's what life is. Life is the opportunity to keep growing and learning. Yeah. And the irony is that we all are looking to creatively contribute to others. That's what our businesses are about. If we can create in a way that contributes, we're all creators. We're creating something, even if it's consulting and giving advice, but it's getting better at that. You'd think that if I'm good at this, if I can help people, they'll line up and buy, right? No, but the world is in such a way that you have to earn the right to lead people. Sales is leadership. They're looking for leadership in a certain area. The challenge is that you have to become better and better and better, not just at your core craft, but at communicating about it, getting it out, letting people know what you can do for them. And in some way that we have to grow before we're able to lead. And let's see, though that was quite a tangent, because I think I started explaining about writing the manual.
Yeah, but it all fits into one thing to the other. So it was very, very valuable. And people can actually get the manual at dovgordon.net/hard sells. And I will also put a link obviously in the show notes. But what you said something, I mean, you said a lot of amazing things, and I definitely have to re-listen myself to catch all the golden nuggets. But there was something that you said at the beginning where if something doesn't work, it's usually something off on your basics.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, that's so true, because I remember, I've been in high ticket sales for such a long time. And whenever things stopped working for me, I always had to find my way back to the basics, like picking up the phone, making that call, right? Going back to
Mm-hmm.
the original pitch, so to speak. And it's so interesting because it is so true. But on the way to mastery, of course, we do experience a little bit here and we try different things. But coming back to the basic is so magical.
Yep.
So I
And
think that's so important that people get that concept, that it's not the amount or the number of advice you receive or information you can gather. It's really what you do with them.
yep. Yeah, absolutely. And for whatever reason, the anything but the basics, the is the shiny objects, the expensive, it's all more attractive superficially, right? For whatever reason, we have to learn to enjoy the basics. I remember reading on a blog post by James Clear. He wrote Atomic Habits, I think his book's called. This is long before his book. He talked about how he was at the gym one day. I think this is what it was. The gym one day, and a well-known coach who'd walked in, he'd coached Olympic athletes, was in the gym that day, and he went over and asked him, "So what's the difference between someone who's really good and someone who makes the Olympics?" And I'm paraphrasing from memory. Obviously, you can look it up, find it on his website. But the coach told him that the real difference is that those who really are Olympic level are the ones who show up every day and they do the repetition. They push through the boredom. They push through, they do what has to be done. Whereas most people are looking for something more exciting.
Yeah.
And someone else, I'm just remembering now, I think this is Dean Jackson, I think direct marketer. I think the way he said it is just going back so many years, it just popped into my head. He says, most people want to have an exciting business and therefore they have boring lives because they're so caught up in the fires of their business. He says, I want to have a boring business so I can lead an exciting life.
Well, I want both.
Well, okay.
But talking about taking it several years back,
yeah.
What was the first thing that you ever sold in your life?
I believe the first thing I ever sold was a magic show. I was as a kid. I was a magician, an amateur, and then a semi-professional. And even as a 10, 11, 12-year-old, I was doing a small show here or there for a birthday party, or I did one on our front porch. I remember, maybe more than one, inviting the neighbors. So that's sales. You have to sell. You have to sell yourself as a performer. I was pretty good. I don't think I had necessarily any tremendous, unique talent there, but I put in the work and I mastered certain tricks, and it was good. It was fun. I also did the selling candy bars and chocolate bars in school, but that came later.
So did you charge for your show, or was it more like getting people into the room?
Well, there are some times where I did some birthday parties, so you charge for that. I did some where it was kind of like, I remember a couple organizations would, I did a show for some fair or carnival they were having. So yeah, there was also one thing I did on our front porch for the neighborhood kids. I don't know if I charged for that. I don't know. I don't remember.
Probably everybody could give their chocolates if they wanted to.
Yeah, I suppose.
So, do you remember when you actually received money for the first time you delivered that service?
I think I do. I think I remember, maybe, a particular show I did for some, to help raise money for some organization. They were having some carnival and they did pay me. I definitely remember later experiences where I was, as a 16-year-old, I was doing. I had a very short-lived stint doing magic for adults at a kids' indoor amusement park. The adults would come and drop their kids off to play for a couple of hours in the balls and whatever they had there, and the adults would sit, order pizza and wait. So the guy hired me to go table to table, and it was a really good experience. Unfortunately, it didn't last very long because about a month after he hired me, they went out of business. I think he might have been paying me too much, but I do remember that I got one tip. I got one tip from doing that, and it was the guy who at first didn't want me to perform. He's like, no, nothing, and I somehow, I don't remember what I said or exactly what I did, but he agreed. He was okay, fine. And then he enjoyed it so much that he was the one person I remember who gave me a tip. I don't know why, if if tipping is common for a magician in a restaurant or not, but yeah. So I guess that was a sale as well.
Yeah,
Then I
cool.
was a little older though.
Yeah. And do you remember was it like easy for you to accept the tip?
I think it was easy to accept that tip, but in terms of being comfortable charging what I'm worth, that's something that I've definitely had to get better at over the years, becoming more comfortable, even charging friends or neighbors for business. Look, if we're doing something as friends and neighbors, one thing. If we're doing something that's business, it's something else. Um, Interestingly enough, I do remember performing for a birthday party as a kid and being stiffed, not being paid when I should have been paid. And the mother of the birthday girl, um, somehow met, a relative. So maybe that's how she got away with it. I don't think she actually meant it in a negative way, but somehow she's like presented it as it was, oh, wonderful, and it was my opportunity to perform, and wasn't I happy about that? And I'm not sure where the communication broke down, but I never did get paid from that, and I still remember.
Oh,
So
that's, yeah. I think those little things often we keep them with us, and it does influence when we ask for money, when we make our offers or create our offers, that often that could be a stumbling block because of these experiences as a child.
could be. I mean, in my case, I don't know if it's that, but I definitely had to grow through the point of where you're uncomfortable asking for money. I mean, I was. I might still be sometimes, but not in the usual situations that I find myself at this point. And you really just have to be really clear that and recognize that I pay people what they ask when I want service or product. I don't, most of us who are, uncomfortable receiving money, we wouldn't think twice about paying somebody else what they deserve, what we feel like. We're very fair, and we're not trying to drive hard bargains usually. At least our type of person like that, right? Um, and you need to recognize that. Why am I willing to pay somebody else? It's because I recognize the value. I recognize the value, and I need to recognize my own value to the person who I'm selling it to.
Yeah.
And I also think that pricing is a matter of growing confidence. So I don't think the idea of pricing is where, hey, you should be charging at least $10,000 or $15,000 or $25,000 for this or that service. That's the kind of advice that some people are giving. In my view, pricing is a function of a number of different things, including your own confidence. And if you're charging $1,000 for something and someone comes along and says you should be charging $20,000 for that, you probably should aim for 20,000, but start by going up to 15 or 2,000 or 2,500 or maybe 5, because if you start charging a price that it's just too far out of your realm of experience or understanding, you're going to drive the client away. It's not going to work. So there's pricing is an interesting thing. It's a combination. People, even if we're pricing, I generally believe in pricing by value when you can, and you can more often than many people realize. You need a client who perceives that value, who has the ability to pay for that value, and not everybody does. And they see that you are the only person really, or the best person to deliver that value. And you need to see very much the same things. And when that's where you can all meet and exchange a generous fee where everybody feels like they're getting a great deal. But part of the problem with a lot of the advice out there, like, oh, you should be charging whatever, such a you come across that. It's been a while since I've actually heard it myself, but I do remember people giving me advice. Oh yeah, everyone, you got to charge at least this amount. Why? Because that's what everybody charges, or that's what you should charge. But it's not true, and it's a pitfall that you need to be aware of. And again, go back to your own common sense. I don't know what we're doing with time, but this is I think a key idea to wrap up with. There are people who are really good at what they do, and that's why they left the corporate world and they want to start up as consultants or experts of one kind or another. And you're really good at what you did because you approached your craft with common sense. You mastered your craft. I don't care if you're a logistics expert or a leadership consultant or a marketing consultant of one kind or another. And we've actually worked with many. Even marketing consultants need help with marketing and sales. We all need some help. You have to realize that just like you're not going to become a great heart surgeon or a great logistics expert or anything by following somebody's 5-point checklist, their blueprint for whatever, right? The same thing is true with marketing and selling your expertise. It is not as simple as flipping a light switch where you do not have to have any understanding of how it works. It's a nuanced skill set. And the same, just like you would never have believed anybody who come and tell you, hey, you can master logistics by just do what I did, just do this, that, and that. And then you too will be like a world-renowned expert on complicated logistics or whatever it might be. Just like you wouldn't believe that, don't believe it when it comes to marketing and sales, because it's not true. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner you'll raise your standards in terms of the kind of help you're actually looking for. So bring common sense to the next journey of turning your expertise into a thriving, profitable business for yourself. That's my final thought.
That's a wonderful wrap up of this episode. Thank you so much. There were so many nuggets. So yeah, have a really wonderful day, and let us know again where we can get the wonderful manual.
Yes, dovgordon.net/heart sells, dovgordon.net/heart sells. And just take a very simple, step-by-step, thoughtful action plan approach to some of the ideas that we talked about last time and this time as well. Really, it's called a manual because it's just, here's the thinking and here's what you do. Here's the thinking, here's what you do. You need both.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much and have a wonderful day.
You too.
Well, I'm so grateful for another episode with Dov Gordon. Make sure you hop on over to christineschlonski.com, find the podcast tab, and get your free manual that provides amazing value and really will help you on your journey to get your ideal clients consistently. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe to Hard Sales Podcast, and thank you so much for leaving a rating and a review, plus sharing it with your friends. I can't wait for you to tune into the next episode. Have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I'm saying bye for now.